One, two, three, four. Hello, guys. Welcome to the TIP podcast. And today we have with us a very special guest. She's the first female on the show, and we have Chinmaya Khismatrao. Hi, Chinmaya. So Chinmaya is joining us from Seattle on the west coast of America, and she's enjoying the weather there. How's Seattle doing?
Not right now. The last weekend was really good. It was nice, warm. 66, 68 hota. It was, I think, more than what it was in San Diego. So I'm really happy about it. But
Nice.
this entire week is going to be rainy, cloudy. Just Seattle vibes as usual.
Yeah, that's the one question you should never ask Seattle people. Like, how's the weather? They always have rainy weather. But getting started, to tell something about Chinmaya, Chinmaya started her journey back in India from Kalyan, which is a suburb from Mumbai. And she did her engineering in Mumbai University. And then she came here to US for her master's program from Pace University. She then came to Charlotte to do her internship at Aon, and then which converted into full time, correct? And
Well,
from that, she went on to work at Allied Solutions for 3 years in Charlotte, and now she moved to Seattle. I think 2 years ago, and she's enjoying her life in Seattle. And she's working for Deloitte as a workday consultant. So, welcome to the show, Chinmaya.
thank you so much, Abhimanyu. But I spent 4 years in Charlotte, just to correct
4 years
you.
in Charlotte. Yeah, yeah. So,
4 years.
including her Aon job. So, yeah, it was interesting to have her on the show because she has had a wonderful journey, and I would want to share her journey with you guys through her words, and of course, a lot of lessons from that journey.
Of course. First of all, I would really like to congratulate you and would thank you for starting this initiative in first place. This is going to be very helpful for people out there in India. It's very difficult for so when I planned to come here, it was very difficult for me because I did not know anybody here in US. So to just go through these interviews or even to know how this process works here, how the life is in US. Sharing all these experiences with everybody is a great initiative, and thank you so much for doing this podcast. And I'm glad to be a part of it. I hope I help people out there in India.
Absolutely. And it's a pleasure for us to have you on the show. And there are so many insights that you can provide. And that's why we are here. So let's get started. How was your life back in Kalyan? It's not that big a city when you were in India, right? You growing up there and having an environment to do all kinds of fun. I know you have very high energy, so I'm pretty sure you might have a notorious childhood back there. So how was it growing up
You're
there?
stealing my words, Abhimanyu.
Yeah. So take us there.
Sure. So Kalyan is right next to Mumbai. It's not very far from Mumbai, to be honest. It's a pretty developed city, and the time I spent in Kalyan is the most memorable one because I don't live there anymore. So I will always cherish the memories that I have spent of my childhood over there. It's the most beloved city to me. I did my schooling in Kalyan itself, from junior KG to high school as well. I studied from a convent school, so my entire education was in an English medium, which helped me to understand things. And moving here was also pretty much smooth. That the transition was not very difficult, to be honest. It was a fun time that I spent in Kalyan. The worst part was my house was 5 minutes away, so I couldn't do a lot of fun. Even if I had to bunk my classes, which usually everybody does in their 11th and 12th standard, I did not get to do that much of that because my mom used to teach right next to my college. and she used to be around always, so I had to be very careful when I bunked my classes.
Nice. That's really interesting. And you went to school where there were all girls, right? You went to
Yes,
all
I went to
girls
all girls
convent.
convent school. That's true. Moving to 11th, 12th was really difficult for me because my parents. So I have a sibling, younger sibling. So I've always grown up with girls around me. My parents were quite hesitant even for me to like share my number with guys, or having guys friend around me was not common. So it was like a journey for my parents as well as me coping up with guys. It was a fun journey, to be honest. I don't have any regret studying in a girls convent school because again you get to be yourself, you get to do all the fun. You do miss the boyish part of it, but you get that in the later part of your life whenever needed.
That's nice. That's nice. Your mom
Yeah.
is a teacher. So how was it having a teacher parent at home, and who used to take your studies and uh, take us there?
So, like you said, my mom is a teacher by profession, but she never taught us at home. It
That's
was
interesting.
always my dad who used to take care of our studies and homework, which is very rare because usually from all of the friends that I have heard, it was always mom who used to take care of your homework and studies that you had. But it used to be my dad, and my grandfather took a lot of initiative with my studies and my homework in my school time. So my mom used to have like two jobs. So she went after she used to come back from work. She had to prepare dinner. So she did not have enough time for us to teach in a way. But my dad did have. He used to teach us history, geography, and all the theoretical subjects. And my grandfather used to teach me maths and English. So that's how it was. And it, I really like whatever I am today. Like I love maths. I would really like to give credits to my grandfather. He used to teach English and maths to uh, other kids as well from different mediums, like from Marathi medium or who used to be poor, and he used to help those kids. I look up to him for that.
That's really nice. And your grandfather is, I think, 92 years old, right? 90 years old. Yeah. And he's an inspiration, even for me. I've heard stories of him from you, and
Yeah,
it's
he's
really
a
inspiring.
super active.
Yeah.
He's the Amitabh Bachchan of our house.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think right before pandemic, you guys went on a roller coaster ride in Singapore as well, right, with him?
Yeah, I think he was 87, I believe, 87 or 90. I think it was 89, 90 roughly.
Yeah.
We took a trip to Singapore, and then he did all the rides, including Transformers.
Wow.
It was written like heart attack patients or who have any um
Ailments. Yeah.
ailments should not take those rides. But he was like, this is the only once in a lifetime thing. I'm going to do all
Wow.
these things. I don't care what happens to me. I'm going to do all the rides. And he enjoyed it. And at the end of the day, we all were sitting and he was the only one standing.
Wow.
That was something inspirational to me. Like, oh my God, this much strength. How can somebody have so much strength at the age of 89, 90?
Truly
Um,
inspirational. Truly
something to look up to.
Yeah, absolutely. So coming back to your journey then, so how was your transition from 11, 12? How did you choose into engineering? What inspired you to become an engineer?
To any engineer, if you ask this question, you're going to get one single answer. You don't have any inspiration to take engineering. You
Interesting. Yeah,
get thrown into that
true,
field.
true.
If you get good marks, your parents are, and if you're from a middle class background, you're always told to take science.
Mm-hmm.
If you do two science, if you score decent, and if you're middle class, you end up taking engineering. If you're very rich, you become a doctor.
True, true. I think that's the reality of our, I mean, back
So,
then, that was the reality.
I that was pretty much my case as well. I scored like decent marks, not that I would say that I was a very good scorer. I was a very average child in general since my childhood. So that is how I ended up in engineering, just being an average kid.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I feel it's not that bad. Like
Mm-hmm.
engineering is something that anybody can do. if you really want to do.
Correct,
And
correct.
even if you don't want to do, you are able to crack it anyhow.
Yep, yep. And I think the journey of engineering is a bit different depending on what your motivations are, but
Yeah.
there, depending on the field as well, it becomes challenging or easy. And I think, like you said, there are also things and different aspects of engineering that you get to learn in your college, right? So, what was that for you? In AC Patil, there must be a different, apart from academics and other things. What was your experience like?
It used to be fun for me because my college was like 2 hours one way by train.
Mm-hmm.
So it used to be 4 hours of traveling just to go and come back home. So I used to start my day at like 6:45, 6:30 from my house and reach my college by 8:30. My lectures used to start at 8:30. Sometimes it used to be late, so if a professor doesn't let you in, we just used to bunk the first half of the entire college because anyway you're not going to get any attendance. So so
Correct.
if you miss one train, you
Yep.
get to watch a movie.
Wow, that's how. So you tried to fill up all the excitement or energy that you were not able
Exactly.
to do in a school or college day
Exactly.
into your engineering. Nice.
Exactly. Like, I think everybody bunks their engineering college, right? You want to explore everything around you. You are in that age where you are grown up and then you have a sense of surrounding
Correct.
and you can study when required. So a right balance of studying, bunking lectures is all that you needed for engineering.
True, true. True. So, in your engineering, were there any subjects that you particularly liked, or anything that caught your attention that helped you, decide whether I want to study deep in master's program and stuff like that?
I really loved like digital logic and designing, and there were few interesting subjects in data, like database design and development, and they were very interesting. So I did information technology as my majors in undergrad. So that was something, and we had like other programming languages as well, which I hated. So I knew that I don't want to code in future. Mm, but like with IT, you eventually end up becoming a software developer, which didn't. I never liked that much of a stream. So I wanted to go do something in data, and I knew I liked SQL and something on those lines where I love data analysis. So I wanted to do something in that, and that was something that inspired me to do my masters. And I think I was in my third year, and that's when I saw many of my friends, mostly guys who were opting for masters, and my dad was the one who asked me about it, like, what do you want to do in future? Are you planning to do any post graduation studies, or do you want to? And I think it was his friend's daughter who was a genius, unlike me.
You're being
uh,
too humble here. Like
so
you tell us
no, no,
your marks
I'm
and
being
then we
honest.
can
I am
decide.
being honest. I'm being
Yeah,
honest. So she pursued her masters from Columbia, and that was something that my dad thought like he thought like even my daughter can take up something like that. Of course, I'm not Columbia level genius. Um, I find my ways out.
exactly. Like yeah.
So that is how he brought masters up to me and is like, would you like to do something? But again, like if I have to do masters, I had no idea how it is like in US. So that was a very difficult decision for me. And then we just started with scratch. Like, how about let's try to crack GRE?
Hmm.
Then we can think of next steps. Let's try to apply and see. Let's think of next steps. So that is how we planned or unplanned that let's take one step at a time and then think of future later than so I never had a goal that I want to end up here and then plan for it. It was just if one step works out, let's go to the next step. If second step works out, let's go to the third step.
Correct.
So it was that type of a planning and it kind of worked out for me.
Of course it did. And it was like you're being too humble here, but of course it involved a lot of hard work, ups and downs in your engineering as well. And it's not easy, right? The journey is not just, smooth sailing. So tell us
I
something
agree.
about that as well, right?
So engineering was quite dramatic for me,
Mm-hmm.
very dramatic for me. My first year of engineering was very difficult, and I had hard time coping up with the engineering syllabus. Um, because I was always like a last minute revision. Let's do
Mm-hmm.
last minute revision before the exams and then appear for it. I did not imagine that the coursework would be this big that I won't be able to finish up studying or do my last minute revision and then give my exams. So I wasn't able to take my first year really well. I sucked big time. But in second year and third year, later on in my years, I did find a sneaky way out where I used to take questionnaires of last 10 years and pick and choose the questions which were most asked or then asked few times and then rarely asked and then make a list of those questions and then prepare those and then I used to make my own book of those questionnaires with the answers because with engineering you don't get one answer from one book. You have to refer to multiple books to get one answer. So I used to make my own answer sheet for all the questions, and that used to be my revision book before exams, and that's how I found my way out to crack my engineering.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like someone who just passed engineering. Okay, you put in a lot of hard work to make sure that you did good in exam.
Yeah, I used to
I'm pretty
prepare
sure
all this
results
in
followed,
last
right? Yeah,
20 days. Okay, I used to prepare this in last 20 days.
that's good enough actually. I mean,
I was always like I never scored good in my internals because I was a person who was like a backbencher who used to love bunking lectures. My attendance used to be just about I that they don't call my parents or
correct.
I don't need any signatures from my parents. It
Whatever
used
the
to be just
minimum requirement is, I
minimum requirement, just
yeah,
fulfill the minimum requirements. My teachers used to be happy to see me out of class. So, so I was that type of a student. So I never scored well in my internals, but in before my exams, I used to prepare really well that I used to score good in my written because that is all you need in your Mumbai University course. It's not a lot of practical knowledge. It's more of a theoretical knowledge. That was another reason I wanted to do masters, because I lacked the practical knowledge which I felt is useful for your experience or when you go out for work. You do need practical skills. You do need communication skills. You do need to develop a confidence, and the confidence would come only if you have a practical knowledge. If you just write exams, that's not going to help you build your personality. And that was something motivated me to pursue my masters.
that's nice. That's nice. And then you went to your dream city, which is New York, right? Like the Big Apple.
I had my lifetime.
So tell us something about that. Like, first of all, it's congratulations to your dad to encourage you to pursue your masters, right? It's
Yeah.
not easy to send your elder daughter to a new country where you don't have anyone, actually looking after you, and it's a new experience. So, uh,
Yeah.
kudos to him. And at the same time, when you made that decision, how was your flight? You came to US, New York, right? I mean, you have seen it in
The
movies and
dream
other
city.
things. How was your experience there?
It was mind blowing. It was amazing. It was thrilling. It was one of the best experience that one could ever have. Like everybody, New York is very similar to Mumbai. It's just what India has a perception of Mumbai that the city never sleeps. It's a replica of that. So I felt very connected to the city just because I have grown up around Mumbai. I'm used to taking trains at 11 p.m. at night and going back home. In that way, I felt very safe in New York, unlike other cities in US where you see that even grocery stores are they close at 9 p.m.
Correct.
You cannot walk around the street randomly after 8 p.m. It's quite scary. So unlike the other cities. New York was something lively even at 2 a.m.
Correct.
So it was an amazing experience. Going there, I first few months were very scary because I didn't know anybody around me. I was quite lonely at times. It used to be scary. I used to call my parents when I felt lonely, but it was still a little. I mean, I didn't wanted them to be, scared of me that what's my daughter doing over there, or feel bad for me, or feel helpless because they can't do anything for me. So at times it used to be lonely, but you find your way out, right? That's how you learn. And I feel that moving here at the age of 22 was one of the best decisions of my life because I became independent. Like when you live with your parents, you have everything that you need for you. You feel secured. You don't feel that I have to take decisions by myself because there are everybody around you to take decisions for you. But when you move out of the house and you have to take decisions for yourself, that's when you grow up, and that's what New York taught me. I feel very privileged to have that experience, and I feel everybody, like every single person, should move out of their house, try to live by themselves at least for 6 months to grow, to develop a personality.
I absolutely agree with it. And the process of growing up, right? Coming out of the sheltered experience around your family,
Environment
and
around you.
then yeah, coming to a new city. Though New York is similar to Mumbai, it's still a new
Yeah.
country and new city, and I'm
The
pretty sure you had your share of ups and downs again.
I
Uh,
still remember the experience where it was pretty much late. I was going back from my friend's place to my house at around 10:30 p.m. It was just one block away. If people from India don't know what one block is, maybe you can say from it used to be like a 2 minutes walk,
one
not
gully to next gully,
one
right?
gully to another gully,
Yeah.
exactly. And two cars just stopped next to me, and I was by myself, and it looked like there were some people, men who were drunk. They just pulled their windows down and they're like, "Kahan ja rahe ho?"
Oh, they
And
talked
I
in
was
Hindi.
so
Wow.
scared. I was so scared. Like, sometimes you run back or you take actions, right? I froze. I
Wow.
just stood still and I just kept looking at them, waiting for them to leave. I didn't move from my place. And that is so very not me. Usually it's your instincts who like tell you like run, or you know ask them to leave or say something. I did not speak a word out. I did not move. I just stood still waiting for them to leave. And then my friends were like, they were, of course, like they were at their place. They were just watching me cross the road. They ran and came towards me like, Chinmaya, gaye wo. So I
Wow.
think they came, and then he just waved to that person, whoever in the car, that leave karke.
Hmm.
And I was still stood frozen, waiting for my friends to cool me down, and then they dropped me home. That was one of the experience like I can never forget in my life. Where like random two cars stopped by and telling me like kahan ja rahe ho, and
Truly scary experience, man.
yeah,
Words
and
can't.
then they started singing some Middle Eastern songs which I didn't understand. So these experiences are something maybe guys would have a different experience, but for me that was one of the experience which they tell me like how much ever it's lively around it, you shouldn't walk around by yourself at night.
Correct.
That is something in US you do have to follow.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So like from the merry Instagram, there is also Instagram worthy life, right, in New York. But from that to managing your
Right,
expenses as a student, how was that?
right.
Like, living life on a budget and doing a lot of thought when you're trying to convert rupees into dollars and spending things. So how was that for you?
The first 6 months, you're always like, acha, it used to be 65 rupees back then. And for me, I was like, acha, to $3 $3 ka milk hai, which is 6 3s are 18, 180, now 190 rupees. So I used to make sure that I don't spend over budget. Like I used to calculate each and every, like my groceries, I used to keep a list of all. Like ठीक है, milk 2 week में एक बार लाना है. So I should not cross that limit. So I used to earn there around 600 to $800 a month roughly.
Mhm.
My um, monthly expense was around, like rent was $350. So I used to leave only $350 in between, out of which $100 was my train pass that I had to. I used to live in Jersey, so
Mhm.
it was like 10 minutes away from Pace because New York is hell expensive. Jersey was a little bit lesser expensive compared to New York, so I used to live there, and the travel used to be $100. Apart from that, so that comes to like 450, and then I used to have like $100 on my groceries and everything. So that used to
Oh,
be 550. And then if you save, you spend $50. You save $50. Or if you decide, let's go to a restaurant and have some fun, that's when I used to spend that $50 on
wow.
a restaurant or save it. But for New York, it's like everybody thinks it's very expensive, but it's for everybody. You know, in Mumbai, you get vada pav and then you also have fancier restaurants. It's just like that. They have like halal, a lot of halal cards where you get like chicken roll, or the pizza was like $1 a slice. So just with 2 slices used to fill your stomach with for $2. So that used to be my go-to meal. $1 pizza, $1 burger, or $6 I used to get like halal ka chicken over rice or something like that.
Correct. Or for guys who don't know halal, halal is basically like a Chinese का गाड़ी in our place, right? वैसे ही
Exactly.
रहता है, but chicken and rice
Vegetarian.
and vegetable भी मिलता है उसमें, falafel and all that. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that used to be my go-to cheap food. The only part I miss was when I used to live in New York. I was poor. Now I have money, but I can't go. I don't go to New York.
You go all around the world, but not New York right now. Like she has traveled a lot, and we'll get to that point as well.
I
But
think I've been there enough.
yeah, yeah. I'm pretty sure you have. So tell me about like managing life on a budget as a student to getting your first paycheck or getting your first offer, right, from your company. How was that experience? Because your struggle to the point where you are managing things and it's all until you get a job, right? You're struggling to find a job. It's not easy. Talk us through that experience of finding a job, and once you were landed an offer for an internship, how was that?
So finding a job varies for every person here in US. I feel it's based a lot on luck than your skills.
True.
You can get like every day you get 2 3 calls for somebody, and then somebody doesn't get a single call. So it's very much based on luck to get a call. Of course, to crack you do need skills. But here the application works very differently. If to give more clarity on that, um, you have to apply for like 200 300 companies, and that's when you get 3 or 4 responses back. And I feel that that is the average that I have heard from everybody around me. It was pretty much similar for me. So you are eligible to work or have an internship after 1 year of staying in US. So after my first year of my masters, I started applying for jobs and internship. I applied to around 200 companies and I got a call from 3 or 4, just like average. And of course, I did not crack my first interview because I had no idea how this works. Also, it was the first interview of my entire life because I do not have any experience in India. I was quite young. So, but something that motivated me was I got a call from Forbes. I was like, if I can get a call from Forbes, I can get a call from many good other companies. And that's what instigated me to keep applying and applying and applying for multiple jobs through various portals. I ended up having internship in Aeon, which was in Charlotte. It was a little bit difficult for me because for New Yorker, it's like you always end up in New York because there are plenty of jobs. For me, it was very weird because I don't even know how Charlotte spells. It's like Charlotte or like Charlotte or Char. It's I don't know, like everybody has a different pronunciation. So it began from there. So yeah, they did offer me an internship and I was very happy. Like I was the first few students in my college who got internship. I think it was in February or March I had already got an offer from Aeon and my
This is
internship was
2016, right?
16
Yeah.
and the start date was in June. So 4 months prior to my internship, I already had an offer. So I was very overwhelmed and very happy. But again, like you get paid 2 months. I think it was a one. So after you start working there, that's when you get your bonus and everything. But I was too much overwhelmed. In May, I left my previous job. I was like, okay, I just want to chill for 1 month. I'm not going to work for 1 month before I start my internship. So I ended up spending all my savings.
Nice.
Like I don't care. This is the 1 month where I'm not going to think of money before starting a new job. I want to enjoy, and that's what I did. And I still remember I had $30, only $30 in my bank account when
Wow.
I moved to Charlotte. That is the lowest I have seen my bank account ever.
I know from a student perspective, I know how it feels like
I
to
mean,
have.
I had to book my own flight tickets because
Correct.
they were going to reimburse me, but that was after I started working. So I had to spend a lot on shopping or buying formal dresses, then booking a ticket for me to fly to Charlotte. And so that is all takes up a lot of your savings.
Correct.
I'm just glad. So I do want to add a point here that when I moved here to US, my dad gave me, I think, $3,000 or $5,000. And I never asked a dollar after that from him. So I feel really proud of that I was able to live and survive here on whatever small amount that I came up with. It feels in India that $3,000 is a lot,
I
but when
know.
you
Yeah.
come here, it's very less.
Living in New York for so long with $3,000 is not easy.
Yeah. So I started working here, and it was a small paycheck, but it used to fulfill my expenses. Like even $600 or $700 that I used to earn a month, I used to my monthly expenses used to be covered by that. So it's fine to spend.
That's nice. That's nice. So you got your first paycheck and then you started working there.
Yeah.
How was your experience like working into industry from coming from academics, right? Like this is your first
Yeah.
exposure to industry. How was that for you?
So when I flew to Charlotte, it was like a nomad place for me. I felt like I was in a forest. Charlotte is one of the greenest cities I have ever lived in. Flying from New York to a concrete jungle to Charlotte, I was just looking for the building. Where is my office?
Correct. Yeah.
So it gave me that vibe. But after I moved to Charlotte, I loved it as a city because it is so much green. It's very quiet, calm, peace. I've never lived in a calm city ever in my life. So it was a very new experience for me. The good thing was the place I used to live in, that's where you live. It was in the student community of University of North Carolina, Charlotte. So I had a lot of Indian students around me, which I had never seen that in New York because New York everybody lives in a different area. They don't have one single student community. So this was also something new in Charlotte, and I love the vibe. Every weekend was a party.
True, true.
So Charlotte was an amazing place to be in. It's one of my favorite places where I have spent the most memorable time with memorable people.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's where we met, and I was working full time there in Charlotte, and I was staying in the student community because why not, right?
Yeah,
It's all cool people there, so I used to stay there, and it was a nice introduction. I remember we met at some party, maybe. Uh,
your roommates. I was
yeah,
your friend. I was your roommate's friends, and
correct.
then you got introduced to me somehow.
Yeah, and
Please student
yeah, we
community.
haven't looked back since. I think it is 7 years now, 6, 7 years
You're
since we met.
kidding me? No way.
Yeah, yeah,
Is it
it's
7
six,
years?
2017,
18?
17,
From 17 or 18? From
17.
17.
Yeah. So it's
Wow.
23, at least 6 years. So yeah, it has been fun journey
Crazy.
and yeah, so many trips together. Chinmaya, when you were working, right? There were
Mhm.
so many other things as well, right?
Yeah.
Learning to drive was one experience you had to go through. Then finding your own place in the work environment, because there are different challenges at work and different things and different situations. Sometimes you don't feel as confident with your skills, sometimes you are very confident. There are good reviews, bad reviews. How do you tackle through all this, like someone who is just someone like you, or some girl who's trying to figure out her place in the corporate structure? What would your advice be from your experience?
Sure. So I would again go back. Like I was still a student in New York, so my life was very much student life, low budget, and you have a very good public transport in New York, so you don't have to worry about anything. Moving to corporate life was very different for me. It was a learning curve. Um, when I moved to Charlotte, it's it's a big city and it's a widespread city. So and the connectivity is not that. At least during that time, they didn't have light rails. Now they do have, but when I started working there was no light rail. There were only bus, and even in bus, you used to see only like homeless people, or everybody had their own cars. So there are like different types of cities in US. Few cities work, they have very good public system, like public transport. But there are most of the cities you need to have your own car. That is how US works. It was very difficult for me in the initial time. I was 23, 24, 23, 24 when I moved to Charlotte. I didn't know how to drive in US. That was a very challenging thing for me. And I think for first 6 months I used to go by bus. Um, the difficult part about bus was the frequency of the bus was every 40 minutes. So if I have to work extra, I had to take another bus which used to come 40 minutes later. So I had to wait for it. And that was very difficult. And my friends really helped me through that process. Um, learning to drive was, of course, I have always looked up to it. And I was very happy. I took that as a challenge. So I initially there was Zipcar, which is like a rental car services, a cheap rental car services,
Correct.
where you can rent a car for an hour, and that is not to be a lot, like $10 or $15 per hour. So I used to take rent a car for an hour, and my friends used to teach me like Sanket.
Sanket already has recorded his podcast, so if you haven't watched it, watch it already. Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah,
sorry.
he encouraged me, and the few other friends also who helped me um, drive the car. So one of my other friend already owned the car, so he taught me. He used to take me with me in the car, and they helped me drive on the neighborhood areas, how to drive on highways. So they really helped me grow up. I I appreciate all of my friends who have helped me grow up and be independent women. I should be very proud that I learned driving by myself.
Yeah, the ability. So for people who don't know, who are in India and listening to this, so driving gives you so much flexibility that you can just fly to a new city, rent a car there and travel and be all by yourself. So you
Yeah.
don't have to be dependent on anyone else or like taxi service and stuff like that. Though
Also,
we have Uber now, but still like renting a car just gives you more flexibility, right?
also, it's not like India here that you can like transport services are available easily. You don't have bus services that easily available to move. Like mobility is very difficult. You don't have two wheelers. You need to have your car, and car is something that is one of the biggest expenses that you do in your life. So having a car was a big thing for me. Um, I'm talking about my first experience at or the work side. Um, it was a very nice experience because when I started working in Aeon, the team was, I think we were a team of 8 people and they had 6 interns. In 3 years, our team from 8 people became to 30 people. So I saw Aeon expanding and becoming a bigger company. I mean, it's already a big company, but for my organization, I saw it growing, and that was something was a very was an satisfying experience because you know you are in a safe place, you're in a safe environment when it comes to work. Mm. Also, along with that, I started as a Eon, and then this spun off from Eon, and my org, and then few other people became a different company altogether and became Allied Solution. That was a scary thing because you know, when your company splits, there is a high possibility that you might get fired, or because you are on a work visa. That is a very difficult thing where you are more likely to get fired than other people comparatively because you are on work visa. You are a liability to them. They have to pay for your visa, so you're easy to get kicked off from the company, and that was something scary. But our company was supportive of us having us in the team, and they did encourage us a lot. So it was quite a learning experience over there. My managers were also, I think my director was really encouraging. He used, like, even being at a very high level, he used to come to us and have one on one with us, ask us about our problems. And I love this about US in general, where they don't think if they're superior to you, they would just come to you and they're very open and free about having a conversation with you. Um, I used to love that they used to ask, like, what can they do to improve as an organization to somebody like a person who was at entry level. It was not just me, anybody. That is one thing I really like about US in general, that every company, I think you must have experienced that. And this is something, it's a unique experience that you get here in US. I do hear from my friends back in India that, you know, you are treated like you can be replaced easily. You're not paid well. That is something you won't feel or experience here.
That's really nice. I mean, that the whole experience that you described is
Yeah,
basically walking through from an academic environment to the real world where the work gets done in the work culture, right? And having meeting different people, different styles of working, expanding team, spinning off companies. All these experiences are something that no one prepares you for, right? And you go through that
exactly.
and try to handle it to the best of ability. And when you talk about the visa thing, for people who don't know, as soon as you because you're on work visa, as soon as you are let go by any company for any reason, the timer starts, which is 60 days. If you are on F1, I think it's more than that. But the timer of the number of days that you need to find another employer who can get you hired at the same time sponsor your visa is something that is always in the back of the mind. And that's why people are very uh, anxious when they're dealing with these uncertainties and different
Right.
situations. And I think we are going through some similar kind of an experience right now with a recession coming in US. And at the
It's
time that we're talking, already 3 to 4 banks have failed, and it's not a nice sight
uh,
right now.
the US is not an easy country for immigrants, especially for Indians. Like the wait time, the visa process is crucial and very dragging compared to other countries like Australia and Canada. People who have moved to Canada or who moved to Australia got their PRs in like 3 to 6 years of the time that they have spent in the country. Here, it's a lifelong process. I
Correct.
don't know, like, even if you live for 20, 30 years, there is no guarantee that you will end up getting a green card in your hand or
Exactly.
a citizenship in your hand. So that is, you always are on a threshold that anything can happen anytime. You can get kicked off this country and you have to pack your bags and leave. So you just have to be prepared for that scenario. And that is something that comes on with all the other great opportunities that this country offers to you. There are always
Absolutely.
pros and cons, and you have to be prepared for it.
Absolutely. And like it's not all green, like you said, right? It's
Exactly.
managing these uncertainties and going back to India is it's not like end of the world or something like that. But at the same
Right.
time, just having that uncertainty around is not healthy sometimes, and it
Right.
is difficult for people to deal with families and stuff like that. So
Right.
yeah,
And I feel like once you age, once you grow up, you start settling down. You don't want to start again something from scratch when you move, not just India, it can be any other country that you plan to move. You you have a foundation built here in this country, and then again to go and redo same things again in any other country, or even going back to India, is as difficult as starting your life from scratch.
True.
So that
Eh,
is something nobody wants to do. At least unwillingly,
Yeah,
nobody wants to do it.
voluntarily, no one wants to do it.
Yeah,
I can
exactly.
understand that. Yeah, yeah. So now then, coming back to growing in confidence. You worked for I think 3 to 4 years in Charlotte, right? For Aeon, then Alight, and then you continued working. You got promoted to senior analyst, and then you decided to change the city to
Yes.
the sunny Seattle, not sunny, actually cloudy Seattle, but you decided to go there and start fresh in Deloitte. So how was that now? This is your second job, new team, new environment, and you are growing in confidence. You are
Yeah.
assertive in nature. How was that for you, working in an
That's
environment?
quite a journey, to be honest,
Absolutely.
Abhimanyu. When I started working in Alight, I was quite naive. I was young, and you don't know how to work, how to talk to people, how to communicate with each other in a working environment. So that was challenging at the beginning. Also because I'd never had any experience working in corporate like back in India as well. So that was like something I had to start from scratch and learn how to talk to people. How to write an email was the first thing to learn.
Correct.
So I was like growing up in my first company. But after, I feel like once you spend 3 to 4 years in one company, there is a saturation and you feel like you're redoing things. And that's where I felt that I need to learn more things. Need to learn more skills. Along with that, like being in a new environment also helps you understand, like you meet different people, right? A company always brings its values to its team. So that's how manager, director, colleagues, peers around you behave. But when you move to a different company, that company has its different values. And that's what comes to you. So you learn like different things when you move or switch your job. Also, when you move to a second job, it gives you a lot of confidence in you. You know what you want in life. You are assertive of things that you want to do or grow in future. You learn to say no, basically.
Yeah, that's how important is that in work culture, right? Saying no.
It's very important. You should know where to draw the line. There are people who are sitting right above you, giving you instructions. You should know this is not something. And you can say it in a good way. You don't have to say no directly. You can say my interest lies in something else and I would like to pursue that. Do you have any opportunities in those lines? And that's a good way to say no.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's I think most important skill in corporate life is an ability to say no without saying no, and
Yeah,
being open to communicating your needs and your
exactly.
wants, right, to your manager.
And one important thing that I found here in US is they do encourage people like such people where they are vocal about their demands and needs. I did ex- I used to be naive and shy previously in my first job, and that's where I felt like it was my mistake that I did not open up myself. And that also comes because the way you are grown up and you have seen the environment in India. And that's the difference in working in India and working here is you are supposed to do what your manager tells you. But here, I can be wrong. Like, I don't want to offend anybody here, but that is what I have heard. It's just my knowledge. But working here gave me what I learned was managers want you to speak up. They want you to be vocal. They want you to tell them what do you want to do. Where does your interest lie? And that's where they will find a right place for you to work where you are happy with your job and as well the company benefits from you. And that's the most important thing I love about working here in US.
Absolutely, that management style of I'm not just saying US, but generally the
Right,
management style of your manager working with you as a team, because your success is going to mean that he achieves his target and he will be
right,
successful in front of his higher manager. And
right.
it doesn't make sense for both of you guys to fight over territory or who did
Right.
what. and it's a team game. And once you make sure, like a manager, from a manager's perspective, if you make sure that your employee is succeeding or doing enjoying his work, he'll do more. And that's I think the psychology behind working as a team and encouraging your teammate to find what interests him or her,
Yeah.
and then have those opportunities presented to them so that they can thrive. From that to personal ambitions, personal life, you always had a goal of owning your house. Now you have you just bought your house in Seattle. You always had a goal of going to Paris. You went to Paris this year, and you always wanted to get married, and you married this year. So you achieved all three goals in like quick successions. How do you feel? How do you feel about that? And you achieved so much in such. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a work in progress for so many years, but now that you have checked off so many items on your checklist, how do you feel about that?
that has just changed my life completely. Let's start with that. In
Yeah,
Charlotte, I lived like I was there for 4 years, but I had many personal things going on as well. And there are two things always going on in your life. One is professional life, one is personal life. Professional life was also I was growing because that was my first job. Personal life as well. I was growing up. Like when you are 23 to 27 is the age when you start understanding things, when you're growing up. And that was my phase where I learned to become an independent person. I had many friends around me, which helped me grow. Um, Eventually, everybody started moving out because they graduated from university. They got jobs in different cities. And what motivated me to Seattle was my roommate found a fiance here
correct. Yeah,
and she moved here during COVID, and that is what something inspired me. I was like, uh, I want to move to a new city. And I had explored most of the East Coast. Like I had lived in New York, I had lived in Charlotte, living there for like almost 5 to 6 years. I had explored all the other cities. Like, why not move to West Coast? And I knew her that she was in Seattle. And I was like, okay, I have at least one friend as a backup if required. I want to explore a new city. It is challenging, but I wanted to take that challenge for myself to see if I am able to survive in a new city by myself. And I took that as a challenge and I moved out of Charlotte. And it was an amazing experience because I moved during COVID. I had just switched my jobs and I had told Deloitte that I want to start working from Seattle than Charlotte. And I was able to do that. I did everything that I wanted to do here. I had a good salary. I lived my life the way I wanted to in this city.
absolutely.
Uh, and that's where the personal life comes in. I met Minaj through a matrimonial site, but he was in the same building, which was quite surprising. Um, so we just, and then I found out he's from the same city, like Kalyan, which was more shocking. And then that's how we ended up getting married. I got married last year. And I think in my first or second date, I had told him that I want to own a house before 30, or at least at 30, and I want to get married. And he took it serious, a little bit too serious. That's how I ended up
Of course, of
getting
course.
married and owning a house in the span of 2 months.
It was a dream of you as a kid, right? Having all these
Yeah,
things, working in a good company, having your own independent life, having your own house, flying to new countries, new cities, and exploring those. So, I mean,
yeah,
you achieved all of those one by one, and it was not an easy road.
yeah,
It was
of course.
absolutely not an easy road,
And
and you had to work really hard for it.
yeah, moving from Charlotte was the most difficult decision I have ever made, more than moving from India to US. It was like a safe spot for me. I got comfortable in that city. I had many other friends. So it was a very secured city for me. I had found my safe zone. So moving to Seattle was a very challenging, like very extremely challenging for me. It was lonely for a few months here. I was trying to find my way out, but Getting out of your comfort zone helps you grow, and that is the only one thing I always believe in, and that provokes me to do something crazy, to do crazy things.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, for people, Chinmaya is very adventurous, and she likes to do adventurous things. Even if she doesn't plan to do adventurous things happen to her. And we have a lot of stories, but we will keep it for another time. So, Chinmaya, now someone who is in 10th, 12th standard, or someone in engineering back in India, trying to figure out. The girl has so many dreams, like you when you were back there, and she's trying to figure out her way. She doesn't know anyone in her family who has done it before, and someone like you who has already done it through your own hard work and perseverance, and you've reached this point. What would you tell her?
So I would say don't stop dreaming. Even if whatever comes your way, there is always a way out. At the age of 10th and 12th, it is very difficult to even see yourself in future where you want to be. Take small steps. Think what you like, what you want to achieve. Start with that. Um, I think when I was in 10th, 12th, I had no idea. I can never imagine in my life that I would be here living in Seattle, owning a house at the age of 30. I never imagined that even when I was 22 or 25.
Correct. Yep.
So take smaller steps. See what you like, and I strongly believe that go with your guts. Even if it's something, a very small thing, that if you like, if you want to take arts, pursue arts, you do it willingly. There is always somebody who will appreciate your work. Don't listen to anybody. Listen to your heart. That's something I would tell to a younger version of me as well. Growing up, how much our situation becomes difficult, don't give up. Engineering is not easy, to be honest. At least to get a hang of it or to get a hold of it, you need to understand the pattern. So you, even if you fail, it's not an ending. I still remember in my masters there were students who failed 2 or 3 times in engineering. Now they're working for GrubHub, which is like what do you have in India?
Zomato.
Zomato, which is like Zomato, and
Yeah.
they earn very well. They are in a very big good cities here in US, well settled down. So 1 or 2 years of failure in their early careers doesn't, in the whole picture, it doesn't matter. Eventually, it matters how you grow from your failure. So even if you fail, it's like when you want to run a car, you take a step back and then you leave it, and it goes faster. And that's how the life is. You take a step back and leave it. It just runs smoothly.
That's such a great analogy. I mean, thank you so much for talking about your journey, sharing it with us, sharing with all of us watching, and going through ups and downs is part of life. But like you said,
Yeah.
no failure is final until you give up, and never give
Yeah.
up. Keep dreaming, and you will reach your final destiny.
Mm.
Whatever you want to achieve, you will reach there. Thank you so much, Chinmaya, for sharing this.
Thank
Uh,
you so much, Abhimanyu. Where there is a will, there is a way.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, if you guys want to talk to Chinmaya, ask any questions, reach out to her on LinkedIn. She's on LinkedIn as Chinmaya Khismatrao. You can also find her on Instagram if you want, or you can reach out to us and we'll get you connected to Chinmaya. So, thank you so much, Chinmaya, for joining us.
Thank you so much, Abhimanyu. I really appreciate for having me share my experience here with you. And I am able to help anybody in any possible ways. I'm glad to be a part of it. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's always fun talking to you. And thank you so much. That's it from our side this time. And talk to you guys soon in the next podcast.